Everybody, I'm TK, and this is TK and Drinks. And tonight we're bringing you an episode of Inside the Mead Maker Studio, where we dive into the world of mead. Whether you're a seasoned brewer or just curious about the craft, join me as we explore the art, science, and passion that fuel this ancient drink. In each episode, I'll bring you insights, interviews, and everything you need to know to enrich your mead experience. So let's get started. Tonight, I'm actually going to be interviewing a mead distributor, not going to be interviewing a mead maker at all, unfortunately, or fortunately. Maybe he does some homebrewing. Guess we'll all find out in the interview. But I'm going to be speaking with Andrew from Mutiny Distribution. I believe they're based out of New York, and they distribute into 3 states, New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, for what looks to be about 8 different meaderies, to 8 to 10, depending on if they're all active, and it looks like some of these places might unfortunately be out of business or no longer distributing anyway. So thank you all for popping in, whether you're joining me live here or in the rebroadcast or on the podcast. Appreciate everybody's time. Tonight I'm going to be drinking a mead, obviously, from Manic Meadery. Well, I guess not obviously from Manic Meadery. Obviously, I'm drinking a mead. Tonight it's going to be from Manic Meadery and Standard Meadery, that collab. This is called Burning Down the House. This is a Bochet. It's a Bochet. I'm trying to remember if it had a varietal of honey on here, as I can forget how to speak there. So mead made with caramelized honey, aged in bourbon barrels for 11 months. And then I know this bottle is like 2 years old. Oh, what's going on, Stardust Sellers? Appreciate you guys popping in. So this is going to be hopefully nice and smooth and delicious. And as you can see, I'm drinking it from my wonderful Darth Maul glass, which I wanted to give everybody an update on the Darth Maul competition, since how that is something that I had recently posted about opening up some reserve spots. So just to bring everybody up to speed, or maybe some new people out there checking this out, I am hosting a Darth Maul color match challenge competition thing for any amateur or professional mead makers, anybody who wants to join. I've got this Darth Maul glass here in my hand that it's just a regular wine glass. It's just got the Darth Maul. I think it's a sticker applique on there. But I've had this since I pretty much started my mead journey, and obviously it'd be cool to be able to fill this up with, a mead that was the exact same red as Darth Maul skin, so it would kind of just make this really cool, like, just this really cool visual. So I decided to host a competition to see who could make the closest mead to something in that that fulfills that requirement of matching that color. So I got a couple rules, couple guidelines that I've put in place, some BJCP categories and styles, just to keep it above, I say above board, but to keep there some sort of like organization to it, some sort of control mechanism. And anyway, so I initially opened up with 12 spots, got those all filled up pretty quickly. So I decided I was going to go ahead and open up the rest of my reserve spots after speaking with the people that are already in the group. And they all said, yeah, man, the more the merrier. Let's definitely have more people in there. So 4 more spots are opened. Hopefully we can get some more mead makers who want to join up and throw their hat into the ring. So this is going to be being judged on May the 4th next year. May the 4th be with you day. And you have until January 1st to join the competition for one of those 4 spots. Again, just DM me or hit me up in the comments. I've got a post pinned on my Instagram account. All that jazz. So again, 4 more spots available for that. And it looks like Mutiny Distribution has just joined in. Oh, it's the mysterious man in the shadows.
Is
The meat.
is that okay? Is that too dark or that's a little sorry. I'm in the like I said, I'm in the van here, so it's a
No worries.
little dark.
It'll work, man. Well, it's going to be a podcast as well as a video, so
Sweet.
it'll
Uh
it'll do.
all right. So you know how
Ooh, you're breaking up pretty bad there. I don't know if it's me or if it's you. Oh, it looks like it's him on his end. Hey, anybody out there watching, give me a comment down there to see if one of us is breaking up more than the other. Hopefully it's not me. Well, hopefully it's not either of us, but clearly somebody's um, messing up. Got a bad connection. He was about to ask me if I knew about something. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure I don't know about any of that, but I do know about this delicious. Okay, everybody can hear me. Okay, so unfortunately, Andrew's having a problem um, out there on the road. Um, oh, thank you, everybody. Appreciate that. Andrew's breaking up on my end. Okay, so that is the case. We're gonna go ahead and see if we can't start to get a different connection going on here. All right. Well, hopefully Andrew's able to make it back because I would really like to be able to get to talk to him. As I was saying, he's part of a group called Mutiny Distribution out of New York. They are the largest and first, and now I'm probably only now that I'm not distributing meat exclusively, um, exclusive mead distributors in the country. They have, again, probably about 8 to 10 different meaderies that they distribute for. What's going on? Let's go ahead and try to get you back in there and see if we have a better connection. There we go. Accept, yes, go live, all the things, all the button pushes. Hey, there we go. Round
Okay, is
two.
that better? All right, sweet. Sorry about, I don't know what the heck happened there. So,
It's Instagram Live. It's not perfect. It's just not any worse than Zoom or anything else.
yeah. So I was saying, you mentioned that you heard about us through Sap House Meadery, and it's Sap House is one of the meaderies we work with,
Yeah.
and hopefully they're watching because the reason I'm having to make a call from the road here is because of Sap House. So,
They did.
so I
They
see
did
you
just join
guys.
in.
Oh, they did.
Yep.
Good. So yeah, it's because of Sap House that we're on the road here. So so I'm just
Yes.
gonna give them a hard time about it. So
Awesome. Yeah, yeah. Matt over there had put me onto you. I'd followed the page for quite a while, back when you guys were a little more active on social media and whatnot. And I had ran the distribution place out in Arizona for a little bit of time. So
right.
I
Okay.
had wanted to reach out to you guys and talk to you at least a little bit on a on a camaraderie type of level. But it's really cool to see that you guys are still doing it, and you got the giant van that you're distributing in, and so you just like to hear your guys' story and kind of just chat back and forth about the unsung mead distribution heroes out there.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, so I started Mutiny Distribution just before the pandemic happened. So
Mhm.
a little bit before. So it's perfect timing as ever. And
Right?
um, I've liked mead for a very long time. And I always just felt the first time I ever tried mead, I always thought, why is mead not more accessible? Like there's some really nice, this is a really nice product. Why don't you see mead, you know, not everywhere, but a solid amount of places.
Yeah.
And from that point, I kind of just uh, thought, how could I maybe help the current situation? And from that point on, I actually traveled across the country, probably visited around 60, 70 different meaderies in
Oh
person
wow.
to
Wow,
kind
that's a
of
lot.
gain a greater understanding of not only the category, but, kind of get to the bottom of, what is the reasons for why mead isn't as accessible as some of the other categories.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot during this period. It wasn't all in like one jump, but it took me about 6 months to kind of visit all these meaderies. And I went to places in the country that I'd never been to before. And So you really got to see a lot. And a lot of these producers are doing really cool things. Like you have everyone from St. Ambrose who's self-cultivating their own honey.
Yeah.
One of the other brands we work with, they're out of Canada. They're called Hemans. Not only do they
Mm.
self-cultivate their own honey, but they're a farm, so they grow a lot of their own fruit as well. So you just get to learn a lot about the category, learn about agriculture, and kind of how it all works. So it was a crash course in education.
Yeah.
And basically, in order to create the portfolio, we picked up samples from all these different brands. We also
Uh-oh.
uh, from other brands that had sent us in, and we basically focus groups all of these different samples, all of these different styles and needs from all these amazing producers, and we
Yeah.
kind of put that together, figured out what people were saying, what people from all kinds of different drinking profiles wanted from the category, and that's kind of how we created the portfolio. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, we kind of put that all together, and that kind of helped us figure out what Mutiny distribution was going to be from a portfolio status. And I had been in New York for a little while now due to my prior work career. And we felt that New York would be a great place to start. And so we put together the funding and got ourselves a warehouse here in Brooklyn. And currently,
Gotcha.
we've expanded not only the brands that we work with, but we've also expanded into Connecticut and New Jersey as well. So now we cover the tri-states for our brands and are creating that distribution network.
Nice.
So
Uh,
that's kind of yeah. So we tried a ton of mead, and like I said, it was a great experience. Learned a lot
yeah.
about the category, what's out there, what isn't out there, what should be out there, et cetera, et cetera. And that really kind of got our start. And from there, we've had great feedback from a multitude of different kinds of accounts, whether that's bars,
Mm.
restaurants, wine, liquor stores, grocery stores, and we've learned even more.
Yeah, I'm
And
sure.
with that data, we help uh, give that feedback to the producers that we're working with to try and create a portfolio that's even more focused on what people want to see from this category. So that's kind of how we got our start.
Gotcha. So you said you went to about 60, some odd different meaderies and everything, or um
Yeah, 60, 70 meteries, somewhere in that ballpark. And like I
eh,
said, we even had meteries that I didn't get to visit in person, but they had sent us samples in the mail and
yeah.
etc. So we had a ton of product to kind of whittle down and kind of figure out, who would be the best ones to kind of help us turn more people onto the category. And Sap House has been with us since they're one of the ones that have been with us since the beginning. So that's
Nice.
why I feel secure giving them a hard time.
Gotcha.
So,
R-
yeah.
Uh, we got a question from Run Amok Mead up in Maine. They're wondering if you guys have any accounts either in Maine or possibly distribute for places in Maine. I'm not quite sure if they're looking to distribute within Maine or outside of Maine, but you guys seem to be the have the Northeast kind of pinned down here.
For sure. So yeah, it's unfortunately the United States, as maybe you'll know as well, it has made things really kind of difficult when it
Hmm.
comes to anything involving alcohol.
Oh yeah.
And so each state is like its own country.
Yeah.
So you have to get the licensing, you have to get a warehouse,
Yeah.
all these other parameters have to be met before you can actually gain the right to distribute in another state.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we're not distributing in Maine just yet.
Yeah.
But I've definitely tried different producers out of Maine. You said it was Run Amok.
Yeah.
I don't think I've tried product from them, but currently we're not distributing in Maine. maybe at some point in the future, once we can kind of scale a bit more, that's definitely a state we could look into and see if that's a possibility.
Well, they're also looking to get distribution outside of the state as well with somebody. So imagine if they ran through your contact page, sent you guys an email over there, you could
Correct.
start something up.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Everything always starts with the product. I think that's one of the things any newer producer or smaller producers really they need to make sure that the product is quality.
Yeah.
Because mead is not at a state right now where a lot of people are drinking it regularly. So we're still
Yeah.
in the stage where we need to convince, instead of having, say, if they only have like
Uh-oh.
4 beers a week, we're still in the state of convincing that person who only drinks 4 beers a week. We're trying to convince them, hey, maybe just drink 3 beers and one mead,
Right.
So we're still in that stage. So the basis for any producer should be you need to have a really top-notch product for us to kind of, bring you on and into the portfolio. Because we just, being a smaller distributor, we only have so much capital for inventory,
Sure.
and we can't afford to basically have any kind of duds in the portfolio, if you will, because that just slows everything down for everybody. So, so yeah,
Yeah.
uh, uh, so yeah, definitely reach out to us. You can reach out to us through Instagram, or yes, we have a contact email on our website. Shoot out an email, and definitely we will need samples from any producer that is interested in
Sure.
potentially working with us.
Yeah. Um, your website is in need of an update, homie.
I mean, it's the website isn't, it gets you from point A to point B.
That,
It's not the most
that it
complex
definitely
website.
does. No.
And a lot of the time not primarily, we only work business to business right now.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, it's not like a massive hub. If we were a brand, things would be different. But a lot of people don't know distribution or understand its function or purpose.
Yeah.
So, but we that is going to be changing. We're actually in the process of updating our website currently, because we have an exciting announcement we've been kind of working on here for a little while.
Mm.
But maybe we could just talk about that later in the show. But basically, we're going
Sure.
to be launching our very own Mead Club,
Oh yeah.
which is going to be really exciting. And so yeah, so we're having to redo our own website, for that. So we need a bit more kit behind us on the website
Gotcha.
to make this happen. So we're currently gone through like all the onboarding, and we have a developer that's helping us. So yeah, we'll be getting a new website here soon enough.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's um probably for the best, and that's a really cool idea about a mead club. I've had similar ideas myself, so it's interesting to see you guys putting something like that together. Um,
Yeah, it's something that I think will be helpful to turning more people onto the category,
yeah.
because a lot of people in this country don't live in the tri-state area, so they
Yeah.
don't have access to the plethora of great options we're providing retailers into this area. And so we're hopeful that the Meat Club will help us turn more people onto the category, and people that
Yeah.
are already on the category, turn them on to maybe some brands that they don't have access to or never had the opportunity to try. But that's our
Sure.
goal, is the selection. So currently we're aiming to do a quarterly drop, and every item in that quarterly drop is going to be from a different producer. So if we have 4 items,
Under the umbrella, under the Mutiny distribution umbrella.
correct.
Yeah.
So yeah, but this is all going to be brands that we work with,
Yeah.
and it's going to allow us to work with even more brands. And I think this would just be a really neat way to, like I say, turn more people onto the category, and give people access that might not have access to, high quality meat in their current area.
Sure. Um,
Yeah,
so we have had a couple different questions coming through on here.
sure.
about I'm trying to make sure I get all of them all gathered into one here. It's basically we got 3 or 4 different people asking about wanting to, what does it take to get into the Mutiny distribution? Like what styles are you feel sell best? What like um types of holes are you feel missing in your product line? What do you define as a top-notch product? I think those are all very valid questions. What's somebody trying to if somebody's trying to get in there and not say quote unquote waste your time, what are some of the things they want to fill?
No, for sure. So, like I said, the most important parameter is quality. The product has to be great. And I know that's like pretty subjective a lot of the time,
Yeah.
but I would say things that differentiate the mead category
Hmm.
is one, how natural it is.
What does that mean?
So,
That's a pretty
for
broad term.
sure. So, for example, none of the producers we work with add any sugar. So there's no added sugars. They're all utilizing, real fruits, real spices, and all of our producers are utilizing raw American honey that doesn't need to be pasteurized, right? So none of our producers pasteurize either. So that's where it comes from. So we're talking high quality ingredients, and I know sometimes that can be difficult, especially with all the crazy appreciation we've seen in the market due to the inflammatory conditions the pandemic has led us into. But that's kind of got to be, where it comes from at the start is quality. The product needs to be top notch because, like I said, we're still having to convince people on a weekly basis that mead is even worth stocking in the store
Sure.
or, adding on draft or something like that. Um, so
And
so that that's definitely number one.
okay.
And then, like I said, quality. And then number two is obviously how natural it is. I think another thing that differentiates really high quality mead is it tastes as advertised. So if you're making a raspberry mead, those raspberries gotta come through. It's gotta taste like raspberry, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not talking like a candied raspberry or like a like a star, like a straw, like one of one of the perfect examples is strawberry, right? Like those strawberry starbursts, that does not taste like strawberry. A lot of strawberry flavored things do not capture the flavor profile of a genuine strawberry, right? However, I think what a lot of people really gravitate towards with our portfolio, and we hear it all the time at tasting events and etc., is
Yeah.
that wow, this tastes like real strawberries in here. So
So
I
you,
think that's yeah. Go ahead.
so your product line is very much a more what I would call like traditional style vinous meads that are more akin to like very I use the word traditional, but it just very
Well,
like
no,
in
yes.
in line with like BJCP categories, and nothing that's too like wild and crazy and out of
Oh
control. It's
no,
all very
we got plenty of wild and crazy needs. To be perfectly honest, like one of our producers, we have a mango habanero sizer from them. Which is pretty fun and wild. We have another producer that makes their pie series with real toasted oats in there, which is pretty kick-ass. So we're definitely
hmm,
down for kind of wild and crazy things. It's just got to be done to a high level where, like for example, the producer that makes meads with this toasted oats, right?
hmm,
It's part of their pie series. So we recently just got their pumpkin pie in. The one before was a blueberry pie.
gotcha.
So the reason they add those toasted oats in there is it gives it that nice kind of pastry kind of pie vibe. And when you try it, you're like, oh wow, this does taste like pumpkin pie or blueberry pie or something like that. So I think that's what people are really look to when it comes to mead is that the flavor profile is genuine to what it says on the label. like that
Sure.
mango habanero sizer that we have from another producer. The habanero, the warmth, the heat kind of comes through on the finish, but then you're also getting the taste of the pepper. Like they absolutely nailed the balance. And I think that's where a lot of meaderies fall short is the balance of things. They do not get the balance right. They
I
go
agree.
way too rich, or they go way too dry where none of the character comes through from whatever fruit or spices that they're adding into it. They really need to make sure that their meat is balanced. And that would be another recommendation I would say is we look for balance. So that mango
Yeah.
habanero meat, for example, you can taste the mango that comes through up front. The sizer bit, the apple, that gives it like a bitterness and a tartness that comes through in the middle that you can taste. And then that habanero taste and heat comes through on the finish. It's all perfectly balanced between those three parameters. And even more so, what makes this a fun meat is they use orange blossom honey. So you get citrus notes in there from the orange blossom honey that also help tie all the various components together. So yeah, I think there's a lot of really neat things.
Oh, did we lose you there?
Can you hear me?
Oh, there you go. Now you're back.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, so balance I think is super important and definitely something that people should be focusing on, with
Yeah.
their own product.
So,
So
so you
like I
mentioned,
said, oh yeah, go ahead.
well, I was going to say, you mentioned quality. You mentioned, um, being a natural product. You mentioned
Yeah,
being in balance. These are unfortunately like all subjective things.
for sure.
That's not a lot of objective things. Like, so who's judging this? Do you have any colleagues that you work with? Or are you kind of doing it by I know you mentioned that you had started this thing, but it kind of sounds like you're not a one man operation.
Yeah, no. So uh, we focus group. Uh, so like we do have a third party that helps us focus group, and
Hmm.
then I have people in and around my circle that have now become quite akin to high quality mead, and who I've gone to pretty much every time, and so yeah, so it's like internal people, friends of the family, if you will, and then we
Hmm.
also do like third party focus group meetings. So it's kind of like we put it all together, and then we kind of see what the data says, and then we can kind of look at that data. And obviously, we've done this a bunch of times before,
Yeah.
and we can kind of
Yeah.
compare and contrast it with other producers that we work with. So yeah, so it's not just I understand that one person's palate is not the end all be all. That's always something
Yeah.
we try and talk to retailers about. So this is something that we do spend a fair amount of time and effort with, trying to figure out taste wise, quality wise. I think quality is pretty easy to tell if you've been drinking mead for not even like a ton of time. I think you can kind of tell the difference between a high quality mead and one that's maybe not so high quality. And like I
Sure.
said, practice makes perfect, and we've had a lot of practice.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to kind of finish up. So another thing I was saying like earlier is
Yeah.
again, it needs to taste how it's advertised.
Yeah.
So like I was saying earlier with the mango habanero sizer, all of those come through, and I think that's what gets people excited. And yeah, the other thing I would say is we try and carry as much of the category as possible.
That's good.
We're always looking for tools in the toolkit that we don't have. Right now
Okay.
we have a pretty wide, breadth of selection, but there's always, things we're on the lookout for. Like recently we bought on a brand that makes session style meads that's not only bone dry, but in 16-ounce cans. 16-ounce cans was something we've been looking for a while.
Mm.
And not only did we find one brand, but we found another brand that we're going to be adding here soon enough that has 16-ounce cans. So yeah, so we want meads that are dry, we want off dry, semi-sweet. We want meads that are richer. We love session style meads, and we also love traditional still meads. So we try and get as much as we can
Yeah.
from both sides. But
I
I
see you
think
don't have a lot of like super heavy thick stuff in your category. You guys not really into like the big heavy dessert style sugar belt stuff?
um, it's a great question. That is something that we are going to be rectifying here soon. We basically we have another four producers that we're hoping to that are on deck right now to be added in the
Mm,
portfolio once we kind of get all the timing, set up. Two of those producers have those kind of style of needs. Um,
oh,
that is something we've been kind of looking out for, and we've finally found, I think, a couple producers that really kind of hit the nail on the head for that kind of style. But
okay.
one of the big reasons is, to be perfectly blunt with you, is I think the mead community or the community that's been built up to this point, those
Hmm.
are the kind of meads that I think they're really into. But what we have seen and learned from the market is that the marketplace, their kind of casual drinker, general drinker, are much more akin to session style meads. That's kind of what they want. So they're not really into those big, kind of bold,
Dessert
heavy
styles.
dessert style meads. Yeah. So,
Gotcha.
and when you look at things logistically, those kind of meads tend to be very, very expensive. And for us to sink that much capital into just that kind of style, where we're
Yeah.
having to move 80 to 100 cases per pallet, it kind of just doesn't make sense logistically, So, because, like I said, the casual drinkers, that's not what they're looking for. So,
Yeah.
so I don't know if producers out there would be shocked by that, but to be honest, we've been at this, selling mead for a while now, and
Yeah.
most drinkers want the session style meads. So, but that
Uh,
doesn't mean to say that there aren't traditional still meads out there that can't turn a casual onto the category. We work with a good number of still meads,
yeah.
and again, a nice kind of selection of those. But like I said, we will be adding in onto that side here soon enough.
Interesting. Yeah, I think it would depend on which mead makers you talk to and which regions are going to tell you, um, you know, what sells better for them. Stardust here down in North Carolina is saying they sell session meads at 15 times the volume they sell their higher ABV stills at.
Right.
Um, you but there's some places that only do still meads, and there's places like say like Schramm's Mead. I don't know if you've heard of them or not, but Schramm's sells, I mean, almost exclusively. I don't think they do a single carbonated mead, and all their meads are high ABV, still heavy dessert wines, and they're one of the top producers in the country as far as like widest distribution and probably volume, I would say.
Yeah.
But it varies. I always tell mead makers, or talk to mead makers, and the successful people seem to be the ones that are catering to their demographic that comes in and visits their meadery. So talking to people on a
Correct.
distribution level, it's a little bit
It's
more.
it's
It's
not
different
really
type of experience.
correct. It's not apples to apples.
Right.
So it's really apples to oranges. And again, this is something we have to educate producers on. Is when producers come to us, they'll say like, "Oh, well, we sell this amount of mead and this amount of mead," but you got to
Yeah.
understand, like a lot of these producers have a tasting room, and they're able to sell online through platforms like Vino Shipper or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's not in a concentrated area. And the thing is if you have customers coming into your tasting room, or you have customers buying your stuff online, those are what we like to call a warm lead. Where out in distribution, we're out in the wilds, we're out in the trenches where people don't have a connection
Yeah.
to the brand, to a specific style, to the category at all. So we're
Yeah.
at a period where, or we're at a point where we need to convince people, like, hey, please try mead. So
Oh yeah.
it is different, and in that kind of a cauldron, if you will, or set of parameters, those kind of
Hmm.
people that we're having to convince a lot of the time, more so times than not, we're able to convince them to drink the session style meads, and to
Right.
a lesser degree, we're able to convince them to the still meads. That's not to say that we don't sell a ton of still meads, we do, but just what we've seen, I think there's more potential to capture a wider array of customers if you're making session style. So, or
Sure.
session style meads, or draft style meads. So a lot of the time we love working with producers that do both because
Yeah, session
we can,
style means are cheaper to make, so they're going to be easier to sell. They're going to be at a more comparable price point to beers and ciders, as is being stated down in the comment
yeah.
section.
Well,
Um,
there's
yeah, it makes sense that
to
you
be
would focus
done.
on that.
Um, yeah, so there's less education that needs to be done. Sometimes the still needs perplex people,
Hmm.
customers. They just don't understand it. They don't know when to drink, how to drink it with. But then if you give them a canned mead, they're like, oh, I know exactly what to do with this because you know they've been drinking cans since college. So that's also another thing that kind of helps with the sessions is it's just a little bit easier for the consumer base out there to kind of understand it. And then the other
Sure.
point is keep in mind we're in New York, Connecticut, and New Jersey, and this side of the world is a very dry drinking side. A lot of the
Hmm.
big cider producers make dry cider, so and a lot of the time the session needs just being on the drier side, it just comes through a little bit clearer, and I think it's a little more exciting than say like a dry still mead. So to the consumer base in the area that we offer, and obviously we're
Dry
gonna.
beads are boring.
Uh, I think it's just what makes mead great a lot of the time. Now again, don't get me wrong, there's some dry still meads that are awesome, but I think what makes a mead or what people characterize mead with, a dry mead that's especially a dry mead that's not done well just
Yeah,
doesn't showcase what's great about this category, and it's
absolutely.
sometimes a really hard sell. But we do carry some dry still meads, and we do sell them. It's
Oh yeah.
just those don't sell as much as say like a mixed berry mead or a cherry mead that's been aged in bourbon barrels or something.
Right.
Those are kind of just are a little more exciting and kind of showcase what this category can do. So,
Yeah.
so that's what,
Yeah.
having a diversity of products is something we aim for. And then I think that's what producers should be aiming for too. And again, that helps us on the distribution side.
Absolutely. Anytime I talk to anybody, it's always the people that pigeonhole themselves into a niche spot within an already niche category that seem to do the least amount, um, have the least amount of success. Not to say they can't be. I spoke with a guy in Oklahoma, outside the Tulsa area, who his entire operation is nothing but still 14 to 16% um, traditional meads, all with different varietals of honey, different sweetness levels, and whatever. But I mean, it's all traditionals, and that's a
Right.
bold move within this community. Um,
100%.
it yeah, so it's cool to see that you guys are trying to diversify your portfolio as much as possible. Is there anybody that you've um, reached out to that you've wanted to work with that has not been on board with it, or maybe it's just kind of blown you off? Because when I was distributing, that happened on a fairly regular basis, but I was a much smaller operation than you guys. So
Right. Gotcha. So we have reached out to some brands before.
yeah.
Thankfully, we've not really had any declines up to this point. I think
Oh wow.
we have a pretty good track record here. But what does happen sometimes is the brands feel that they're too small to get into distribution,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's not like the right timing. So it's not like a no, but it's a no for the time being.
To
In that, hey,
know
we need
right
to
now,
scale.
yeah.
Correct. Yeah, we need to scale, and once we scale, then we can, get back to chatting with you guys and seeing if, we could partner with you. So, and I'm happy to say that we've had those situations happen, and then down the road, we're actually able to partner with those meaderies and have done. So,
Very cool.
yeah, but I mean, yeah, I think it's interesting because I think there's definitely a group of brands out there, and I won't name names, but they know who they are, where there's a bit of a chip on their shoulder for whatever reason. And the thing is what one of the reasons we love Me Too is it's a very grassroots community still,
Hmm.
and we all need to help each other to help get this category to the next level, right? And I just think that there are some people in the community that don't understand that, and it's like they're only focused on their brand only, without understanding that
Hmm.
we're all about Mutiny's all about getting the category to the next level, and we're looking for those brands that understand that and want to help us get the category to the next level.
Yeah.
So if you're only concerned about, well, how much are you selling of our brand or whatever without seeing the bigger picture, well, then we're probably not a fit for you guys. So, we
Interesting
want
way of
people
putting it.
to, yeah, so we want people coming in that are like, hey, we want to help you get this category to the next level, not like, how can you help me and my brand? I'm going to
That's
turn that question right around on you and be like, okay, how can your brand help us? That's the more important question.
sure.
So, and like I said, I think sometimes brands get this sense of entitlement
Overinflated
or
sense of self-esteem.
correct because they have 10 people coming in their tasting room telling them how great their stuff is. But like I
Sure.
said, we Mutiny operates in the real world, and we
Yeah.
see the people and that we need to that are really going to help us get to that next stage. And only every now and then do we get the kind of people that come into your tasting room. You know what I mean? Like I said,
Yeah.
they have a different sense of what is out there for the market, because a lot of their leads are very warm, and that's a very easy customer to make. Where we're dealing with
Yeah.
very, very cold leads all the time, and that is a very different proposition to turning them onto the category. So I would just say, to some of the brands out there, check your ego. There's not a Sierra Nevada of the brand just yet. So don't
Sure.
act like that. That's one way that turns us off very quickly from even wanting to work with you, is if you have this ego that's unwarranted, because none of
Yeah.
us should have that ego at this stage because the category is not big enough. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. I could, man, I could name a name. I'm pretty sure I know who you're talking about because this person tried to work
there's
with me as well, and it was a very interesting situation.
there's a few. So, and I think people also misunderstand that we also work with a bunch of other brands. So we get information from all over the place.
Yeah.
We keep our ears to the ground,
Sure.
and I think a lot of meaderies look to us because we can help them get them to the next stage with all the information that we've learned, and all the hard lessons we've learned as well. So,
Along the way.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and it's not just been a regular operating period, it's been a very difficult period. So we had all the
Hmm.
pandemic to go through, and we had all the supply chain issues. We've
Yeah.
now had inflation and a recessionary period as well. So that we've been kind of, working
Exploring
our way through.
your
Exactly. So,
exploring your way through.
yes.
Yeah.
So we've picked up a lot of tips of the trade, if you will.
Yeah. All right, we got some questions and some stuff coming through here.
For
See,
sure.
Hierophant Meadery out of Washington State, saying they're grateful what you're doing. Need to they need to expand the category. They would be a phenomenal add to your portfolio. They're one of my favorite mead makers in the country. They're
Uh,
great stuff there. Stardust
yeah,
is
I,
asking if
I
you've. Go ahead.
go ahead.
Oh no, yeah, no. I'm a huge fan of Hierophant. I got to visit them a couple years ago, and they make phenomenal stuff. They make a ton of methaglens and herbal meads, and they do, or I'm not sure if they have lately, but they used to do foraging for some of their stuff. And the coolest thing is in their tasting room, they have like a spice rack where you can buy the same spices that they use in their meads to use in your meads or for your own
Sure.
spice using meads. It's really awesome, and their stuff is top notch. They would be, like I said, a phenomenal add to your catalog.
Yeah, I know them. I know them decently well. They're actually one of the meaderies I visited all those years ago when
Yeah.
I visited those initial 60, 70. So I actually went up to Spokane, visited
Mm.
them, and I visited a couple other meaderies in Washington as well. So yeah, sounds great. Just tell them to shoot us an email and or an Instagram direct message, and
Yeah.
we'll get back to you. And yeah, we'll definitely like to revisit the brand and be curious to see the amount of progress they've made.
See, Stardust is curious if you've noticed any difference in taste or mead preferences by region or demographics within your territories.
Yeah, like I said, this area that we're working in typically leans dry. Um, I,
Hmm.
I don't know what exactly it is with this area, but uh, like I said, one of the brands we work with is also they're also a farm, so I do learn a lot from that brand in particular. And basically, what he was telling me is that New York State apples are so revered
Yeah.
because of the colder weather. Because of the colder weather, the apples work harder to create their taste. So
Yeah.
basically, but the thing is they focus on taste, not the sugar. So New York State
Mhm.
apples are revered because they have a low sugar count, but they still have a high taste, uh, uh, that they exude. And so that's
Sure.
why, however, where you have like Washington apples, where you have high sugar, but then the taste doesn't really come through so clearly. So not to crap on Washington, but as it was explained to me by these farmers, is that that's why Washington apples are cheaper than say like a New York State apple. So maybe that's one of the reasons this area kind of leans drier is because
Hmm.
they've had a long history of making dry cider. But yeah, so I would say that's something that people kind of lean towards. But then it really kind of comes down to accounts and what accounts attract,
Yeah.
right? So we have some accounts where they attract people that are more exploratory in their drinking habits, and so that's an easier kind of account to sell a bunch of different styles and need to.
Yeah.
But then you have some a lot of the time like these craft like these again these really snobby craft beer bars here in the city, a lot of the time they're looking for dryer.
Hmm. Interesting. What kind of volume are you looking for your first time mead brands to bring potentially?
Um, yeah, so typically, you know, again, we're a smaller distributor ourselves, and like I said, everything's been bootstrapped, on our own,
Yeah.
finance basically. So we only have a set amount for capital. We're not as big as some of these other distributors, but typically, we tend to do anywhere from a pallet to up to 3 skids at a time. There are certain situations where we will order more, just
What about
depending.
less?
Uh, Typically, we want to be moving a pallet at a time because freight is quite expensive. Liquid is quite heavy. And in order to kind of make the numbers work, because as you
Yeah.
understand, meat is already a more expensive category, which is another
Hmm.
thing that hurts us. People aren't used to spending this kind of money on products, if they're coming from like just a beer drinking side or even like cheap wine, we're a lot more expensive than a lot of the cheap wine out there.
Yeah.
So typically to make the numbers work, we don't really like to deal in under pallets. So we got to be doing at least one pallet for you guys.
Do
So
you aim?
typically,
Do you guys aim to sell above MSRP from like maybe MSRP isn't the right term, but do you aim to sell? How close do you aim to sell to what the meadery sells at like at their facility for the same product?
yeah, we work pretty hard to make sure that the product is sitting on the shelf at a price point that won't scare customers away. I think the most expensive meads we currently have on the shelf is like $34, give or
Hmm.
take.
Okay.
And to be perfectly honest, we try and talk to accounts that are pricing our meads at a level that we don't think is fair.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the high end that we're currently at. And those typically are like barrel aged meads, where there's a ton of added time and cost into the production. So we try to get it as close to producers, as possible. But yeah,
Sure.
at the end of the day, freight is very expensive,
Oh
and
yeah.
so yeah, we need to make a certain amount on the product, and so yeah. But I mean, we're not like a crazy markup. We're pretty close to like your standard distributors out there. So.
Gotcha. How can mead elevate the drinking game is one question that's come in.
I think like I said earlier, I think one of the keystones of the category is the quality and how genuine really good mead tastes. So I think what you mentioned Schramm's earlier. I think why people get excited about those kind of meads is his blackcurrant mead. Damn sure that tastes like black currants. And it has that wonderful acidity that he's able to capture that the currents
Yeah.
have. And that gets people excited because it tastes very smooth. I think that's
Yeah.
another thing I didn't mention earlier. Mead, at least our producers we're making a name for the category where it's a very smooth category. So a lot of the people think our session style meads are
Yeah.
non-alcoholic. They think, they think the still mead's like, we'll have a still mead here that's 19%, and they'll be like, oh, we thought this mead was like 8%. So I think
Sure.
that's another really cool thing that mead does. Honey is a wonderful fermentable, and it just mitigates those bad flavors that come from the presence of alcohol and through the fermentation process. So a mead that's smooth, a mead that tastes exactly, what's on the label,
Yeah.
and then also um, uh, just that quality really comes through.
And
Most
balance.
balance, exactly. Balance is another thing, and I just think that there's so many more things that you can do with mead that other categories just can't do. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
Um,
for
and
sure.
so yeah, so I think that's another really cool thing that mead is known for. Because just to give you an example, like that mango habanero mead, I think a lot of the
Yeah.
time with like grapes or for wine or apples for cider or malts and grains for beer,
Hmm.
um, it tends to mute the other ingredients that are in there. But I think honey does a much better job of showcasing the characteristics of if you have black currants in the mead, or you have blueberries, or you have habanero peppers. I think
Sure.
Mead does a great job of showcasing those qualities. And so I think that's really what sets Mead apart. Another thing that sets Mead apart. So, yeah, that quality really shines.
Yeah, you're you're saying all the same things that I was saying when I was doing my thing. It looks like through the comment section here you have probably at least five or six people that are interested to some degree. Looks like you've at least one email coming through. You do
Sure.
have preferred for 750s or 375 bottles, and do you have any preferred trucking companies that you work with, and tips for wrapping pallets?
Okay, so we'll start off with the bottle size. We carry both, but like I said, sometimes the price point makes things tricky with mead. And
Hmm.
so most of the producers out there that are making still traditional style meads tends to be in 375 ml bottles. But there are producers out there that are doing 750. So it just depends, can we make the pricing work for 750? And
Yeah.
the 750 ml bottles that we have on the shelf currently, we have been able to make it working for price point,
Yeah.
and they sell just as well, just as good as the 375 mil. So,
Okay.
but I think 375 mil, like I said, helps with the pricing, but it also, I think, gives people a little more leeway into thinking like, hey, if I don't like this, it's only 375 mils. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it
I
also, I
only
think,
paid $20 for this 12-ounce bottle.
correct. Yeah. And so it's like maybe they're a little more, their curiosity would be like, okay, I'll buy a 375 mil, but then to shell out for a full 750, I don't know if I want to take the risk. And again, I'm just talking
Yeah.
about a first time mead drinker that's never tried mead, maybe never even heard of the category. This is
Yeah.
the kind of the logic they're thinking of when they're at the shelf, you know? So that's
Oh,
another
absolutely.
benefit from 375 mil. It's a little less scary, a little less quote unquote risky for a first time consumer to pull it off the shelf and try it out. You know?
Yeah. Um, t- uh, trucking, uh, trucking
Oh
company
yeah,
preferences
trucking.
or and pallet wrapping tips.
Yeah. So there's plenty. Well, I wouldn't say plenty. Ever since the pandemic, there have been national freight carriers that have been still going under, which has
Yeah.
been really unfortunate, and that's only driven freight costs up.
Yep.
We work with a freight carrier that covers nationwide. They're called Old Dominion,
Hmm.
and they've been good for us. But like all freight carriers, we've had our ups and downs with them, but all things considered, they've been a great partner on our end.
Yeah.
So that would be who we recommend. And then we recently have been working with some smaller local freight carriers in the local Northeast area, which has been good too. But yeah, there's also companies out there called brokers, and their job is literally to get you, the best quotes
Yeah.
that they can find. Um, so,
Freight quote.
so that's another exactly. Freight
Yeah.
quote was one of them, and then there's smaller, there's even freight companies that you can call that will get you quotes with other companies.
Yeah.
That tends to be like their logistics department that you can reach out to.
Yep.
So that's another one that you could reach out to. But yeah, if we're gonna call out one brand, I would say Old Dominion. Like I said, we've loved working with them. Things like FedEx, UPS, we can't work with because they won't allow for shipping of alcohol. So it really kind of narrows down who you can work with. But yeah, I would say specifically for us, Old Dominion's been great.
Yeah.
But if Old Dominion doesn't service your area, which is probably a smaller possibility, then I would reach out to a broker. And then
Yeah.
generally, if you can kind of find out from a broker, then you can actually maybe reach out to those freight companies directly and start your own accounts with them. And that's always the better route to take than a broker. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. We had a comment just posted from John Houlihan down at Brulahan Meadery in Miami.
yeah.
He gave an email for his broker says she's the best in the business. They're at Airways Freight. So anybody in the
Okay.
comments, go ahead, mark that one down. She'll take care of you. And
Perfect.
then what about tips for wrapping pallets? Because you guys get a lot of pallets in. So how about pallets of cans and pallets of bottles and mixed rate pallets, if there's a
Yeah.
difference?
Yeah. So this is actually this is an important one because, um, uh, you know, if we're shipping things across the country or long distances, a lot of the time stuff moves around, things get damaged, and we find ourselves in the situation where we're having to clean 2,400 cans,
Yeah.
which is not a good use of time. So,
No.
so the better wrapped things are, the better. So I'd start there, making sure you're double wrapping or even triple wrapping. A
Yeah.
lot of the time, what you'll do is you want to tie the saran wrap, the industrial saran wrap, on the bottom skid part. You want to tie it so that way it's not moving, and rather than just, circling it.
Yep.
So that would be one thing I would recommend. Um, and then, so start there, tie it down, maybe tie it on either side, opposite
Yep.
sides, if you will. And then start wrapping it, like I said, double, triple wrapping. There are these, I don't know what you call them, but they're basically these cardboard corners.
That's what they're
I
called,
would,
corners.
yeah, corners. I would highly recommend using those.
Absolutely.
It tends to always be better with the cardboard corners.
Yep.
And so yeah, so you're basically wrapping that cardboard within there. And then if you're going to do like a mixed pallet, typically you want the cans on the bottom and then you want the cases on top,
Yep.
because the cans you can make sure they're nice and flat, and then you basically will want to wrap the bottle cases on top. You'll want to
Yep.
wrap them separately from the cases, but then wrap them together. So wrap them separately and then wrap them together.
Yep.
So that would be another good tip there. And then when you're dealing with kegs, I would have the kegs on the bottom,
Yeah.
cases on top.
Yeah.
So, and generally for those kind of things,
Yeah.
you'll want to do a wooden skid in between them to
Absolutely.
separate it. That provides extra stability, and
Yeah.
can really help you just make sure that the skid doesn't topple over or get damaged
Yeah.
or whatever.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
investing in high quality shipping pallets is definitely not a bad idea. When it's either with like the quad, the ones that have like the center blocks in them, like the Chet pallets, the bigger industrial ones, or the ones that have double
Yes.
runners in them, have two center blocks down the middle, because those will really help distribute the weight a lot better and carry that pallet
100
to its end destination.
100%. We hold on to skids that are nice quality, so they're called heavy
Yeah.
duty skids, and
Yeah.
it's universal. They're painted blue, not
Yeah.
painted,
Yep.
but they have like a blue stripe or whatever.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
producers, I would highly recommend investing in getting those heavy duty pallet skids, because they really do make a difference. Because sometimes what will
Absolutely.
happen is the ones that aren't heavy duty, they'll break, and then we can't even get a pallet jack in there. So then we got to
Exactly.
unload by hand. And when your distributor's having to unload by hand, and then they're having to clean cans on top of that, because that's always going to happen if that happens, they are
Yep.
not happy campers,
No.
because we're wasting time and energy on very low reward
High effort.
items.
Yeah.
Correct. High
Exactly.
effort, low reward, and we don't want to be doing that. So
Yeah. And if you can, when you're shipping anything that's going, if you can stick like a piece of cardboard between your layers, or at least every other layer, to really help stabilize that pallet during the shipping process. Tie stacking your cases so it's not like all just one case on top of each other. It has like a different pattern to it, again, to help stabilize the pallet when it's shipping. And if something happens like that, where you have a slat that breaks on your pallet and it tips over and leans, the whole thing doesn't just continue to lean with it. It kind of like self
yes,
stabilizes.
yeah. So that's another thing. They have these black straps. They're like was it nylon, right?
Nylon.
Yeah,
Yep.
those are helpful too. That you
Absolutely.
can, kind of, once you've got everything wrapped and everything, getting a couple of those on there again helps with stability. So, I mean, so if you want to double, triple wrap it, and then get those straps, get the heavy duty. We're looking at a nice solid pallet where we're going to have
Yeah.
the best success of things
Yeah.
not getting damaged in transportation.
And it might sound a bit expensive on the front end to invest in all these products, but you got to think that you're shipping these things across, potentially all the way across the country, 2,000, 3,000 miles, and people shipping it, I'm just gonna be blunt, don't give a fuck about your product as much as you do, and
Correct.
it's gonna get beat up by the road. So anything you can do on the front end to help mitigate those damages, those types of unknown unknowns, so it gets to the final destination in one piece for the
Yeah.
receiver to be able to grab that and do what they need to do with it. I mean, you're doing yourself favors. You're saving yourself headaches. It's only behooves you to do these things.
For sure. Like I said, these, agreements that we get into, these partnerships, that's exactly what they are. So if you
Yeah.
have a partner that gets shipments, and they don't have to worry about cleaning cans or finding cardboard flats. Like we always tend to
Yeah.
hold on to cardboard flats
Yeah.
because a lot of the time, if cans get smashed, the cardboard gets wet, it gets moldy. We can't have that because again,
Yeah.
we're still in the stage of we need to impress not only drinkers, but we need to impress accounts as well. And so we can't get away with
Absolutely.
things that larger distributors can get away with. So if we're having to, like I said, change out the flats, clean the cans, et cetera, and we're losing all these dollars, we're not a happy partner, and obviously
Yeah.
that gets reflected. So happy,
Exactly.
so what do they say? Happy wife, happy life, happy me distributor, happy producer, and vice versa. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You want, yeah, they got to know that you have to know that they're investing as much time and energy to get you guys a quality product as that they know that you're investing that same amount of time to be able to market and distribute their product in places that are going to be able to, make it worth their while to put that effort in on the front end.
Correct.
You know,
Correct.
it's a circle of life.
Exactly. And then it just shows you that the producer cares. There's
Right.
pride in their work, and,
Yep.
that they're doing everything they can to help us get Mead to the next level.
Yeah. Nothing worse than showing up with broken mead. It's the worst feeling.
Oh yeah. I mean the bees and wasps love it, so that's another issue. But
Oh yeah, yeah, the mess cleaner uppers
yeah,
definitely love a good broken mead
yeah,
case. That's for sure.
exactly, for sure.
So you said
So
you guys have a couple more some meaderies in the pipeline that are coming up. You've got this really cool mead membership coming up. You said there was something you might potentially be wanting to mention towards the end of the
well that
towards
was
the
it.
end.
The club that we're going to
Oh,
be launching.
oh, cool, awesome.
Uh, we haven't actually announced anything publicly, so this is kind of like the first thing we've
Awesome.
said anything. So,
Yeah,
yeah, so right now, like I said, we're currently working on our website.
yeah,
But if people want to join, just say, send your email, your contact information, and etc. to info@mutinydistribution.com, and we'll make sure
yeah,
once we have the website ready to go, that we'll be able to, get you guys signed up for that.
yeah,
Every member that joins is going to have their own login and everything, which is going to be really cool. And like I said,
yeah,
we're going to be adding a nice set of new brands that are going to give us even more selection to play with. And it's going to be great. We're going to have Q&As like this with mead makers. So we're going to have events. We're going to have swag, if you will. Different shirts, hats, etc. Um,
yeah,
and um, and then yeah, where you're going to basically have access to the greatest meads that are out there on a quarterly basis, and we're going to have exclusive product as well. And like I said, it's going to be a really fun thing. And yeah, we're really excited to launch it and get it off the ground. So next year we were hoping to kind of get it here before the holidays, but it's looking like that you know, things always take longer and cost more money than you anticipate in business. That's how things
for
always
sure.
tend to be. So take those
Well, I love
words
your positive.
seriously.
Yeah, I love
So yeah,
your positive outlook on all these things, man. It certainly is infectious. One final
um,
question
yeah.
from Dragon Meter. He says, "When does producer liability end and distributors start?" So, my understanding from having worked in shipping and receiving, basically, producer liability doesn't end until the receiving party, in this case, the distributor, takes hold of the product. So, all through shipping, yeah, the shipping company has a certain onus, a certain responsibility to deliver your package um, in a safe and sound fashion. But it's up to you as the shipper to to make sure that the thing that they're transporting is packaged and um, contained well enough to make it to the end destination. Given a certain amount of, for lack of a better term, road abuse that will be had by the product.
Yeah. So yeah, again, another nice specific question. So I can't speak for all freight companies, but
Yeah.
like I said, the one we work with primarily, Old Dominion, there is insurance that's included
Yeah.
within the freight. So um, if there is a situation where there's a fair amount of damage that's not producer related, that is related to transportation, typically we can reach out to Old Dominion, file a claim with them, and get recuperated.
Sure.
Um, Now, if there's situations where the cans are re-fermenting, that's on the producer.
Right.
If
Oh, for
there
sure.
are, yeah, yeah. So if there are situations where you like we've had issues where bottles have come in without labels. I can't sell that,
Right.
or we've had certain times where corks are popping when they shouldn't be.
Right.
Our warehouses are all climate controlled, so we've worked
There's no
hard to
reason that should be happening.
correct or so yeah. So if there are things that are, producer related, or we start opening, the cans or the bottles and things aren't tasting right,
Yeah.
like that is unfortunately that is on the producer,
Yeah.
and we will need to get reimbursed for that kind of stuff. So it's all, like I said, if it's related to the freight carrier, then we will reach out to the freight carrier, and the producer doesn't need to worry about that. But
Yeah.
if it's stuff that's producer related or product related, that's when the liability then has to go back on the producer. So just to give you an example, if cans come in and they're soaked and everything,
Yeah.
and well, maybe there's an issue with the lining. We've had that happen before where product has been sent to us and the cans are leaking because of the lining. You would think, oh, maybe something has happened in transportation, but then you start to realize, no, it's the lining that's the issue here. So
Yeah.
therefore, we had to go back to that producer and be like, hey, these cans aren't good to sell. So we need to get reimbursed basically, for that. And then not only that, but then you need to get reimbursed for the freight. If we've sold product that we have to go and take back off the shelf, well, now,
Yeah.
we're needing to get reimbursed for the excise taxes, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what I'm saying. Like before these producers get into a distribution agreement with a distributor or wholesaler, they really need to make sure that they have their stuff together and that these kind of issues aren't cropping up, or if they are cropping up, it's to a minimum degree, you know?
Sure.
So, because again, that's just not going to make your distributor happy.
Yeah.
And that's going to make them think like, okay, well, maybe this was the wrong, producer to start working with. So you just kind of need to have, but like I said, we've
I
gone
would
through
see.
these kind of, yeah,
I would hope that people would have that mindset already in place by the time that they're reaching out to distributorship. I wouldn't think that somebody would be. And again, just my thoughts, and you probably have different experiences, which is why fine print is out there, so to speak. But
yeah. I
it,
think
it
there's, I think there's a
people that
couple
are out there trying to
meaderies.
hustle off freaking mead that's recarbonating or re-fermenting and not packaged properly, and
I mean, obviously, I want to give everyone the benefit of the doubt, but I
oh, I don't.
definitely, but I definitely think that it's not uh, below the character of some of the people out there
Sure,
to do
that's what
that,
I'm saying.
and unfortunately, and so there, like with everything, there are bad actors, there are bad apples in the group,
All right,
and I think
that's fair.
because of the crazy kind of awful macroeconomic climate that has been the market the last nearly 5 years now, that has
Yeah,
created some desperation out there. And I think sometimes people are more desperate to get things out there than they are to understanding, is this going to harm a potential relationship that could be really beneficial to us? And, you know,
yeah,
we've we've thankfully not gotten into a partnership where, or a distribution agreement where that has happened, but I've
yeah,
definitely heard some horror stories out there,
yeah,
and so yeah, so like I said, because the thing is I think another neat thing that Mutiny provides is we're growing too, right? And the idea with us is that we are scaling with you guys, producers meaning,
Yeah.
and that hopefully because we work with a nice set of other producers,
Yeah.
if you're not able to kind of hit the kind of production targets that we're asking from you, well, then we can lean on other brands. And then therefore, because that's the thing is like I said, the keystone to all this is the quality. And
Yeah.
yes, you'll be scaling with us, but our goal is to make sure that we're asking you guys to scale at a rate that you're still comfortable that you can produce the quality. And that
Very
we're
cool.
not having these kind of production issues crop up, whether it's
Yeah.
can linings or whatever. And so I think that's another really nice thing about Mutiny is like, hey, we're small guys too, and we're humans, and we understand that. And we've gotten into issues with producers where they've not been able to meet the demand, or
Yeah.
problems have happened. And look, we talk, I talk to our producers pretty much every month. Uh, and so that is, I think, something that a producer that wants to work with Mutiny, hopefully they'll understand that, we're humans too. We're on
Yeah.
that kind of small grind, that growing pain kind of stage as well. And we wouldn't be asking you guys to scale at a rate that won't be comfortable.
Yeah.
So our goal is to help you, to provide you an avenue of sales that can help you scale. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I think that's another thing that really kind of sets Mutiny distribution apart, where a lot of distributors, they will not understand that. And if you can't produce the amount of product that they need consistently,
You're
well,
out.
then that's a problem, and then you're out. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I would definitely encourage anybody, commercial mead makers out there, to reach out to Mutiny Distribution if you're looking to expand into the Northeast area, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. These guys have a strong foothold in that area, especially for exclusive mead distribution. Because as Andrew's saying, if anytime you're talking to a distributor, especially people who don't necessarily know the mead market, you're going to not know what you're going to get. So it's nice to be able to talk to somebody who's in the know. It has that type of resources to be able to get your product the best type of visibility out there for your brand.
For sure. That's our goal. We also do a lot of brand building, and I think a lot of meteors will find they're going with larger distributors. They will not do that,
Yeah,
and they're very quick to drop you after bringing you on. And a lot of the time, what they'll do is they'll tie you up with distribution agreements where any other distributor that wants to carry your product in this state or that state,
yeah,
we'll have to pay them some kind of fee to get the rights, or the
yeah,
exclusivity. So I would not be making moves out of desperation. You'd be making, calculated moves where you really
yeah.
understand the people on the other side, and are these going to be people that are going to not only sell your brand, but help you build your brand. And I can
Absolutely.
say definitively that Mutiny is definitely a partner for that. I think a lot of distributors don't want to deal with Mead because it's a lot harder of a sell.
Yeah,
But we are comfortable with the additional legwork that we have to do, to getting these amazing producers in this category on the shelf.
awesome.
So yeah, and so yeah, one of the ways you guys can help, I think a lot of the things that we've also learned is producers don't get to try a wide array of other producers' product. So if you're a producer and you want to try more meat out there to gain inspiration or to kind of help you figure out a new style you're working on, join the Mutiny Mead Club. That can also be really useful to you guys, because we're getting you high quality mead from all different producers from not just this country but other countries, and some really complex stuff as well. And that could be another way that you guys can uh, try more that's out there and give you ideas for your own brand.
Awesome, man. Go follow Mutiny Distribution on Instagram and
Yeah,
Like I said, try to stay in tune with what they're doing, especially if you're a brand that's looking to expand in that area because they got some great things coming up. It's been a phenomenal time talking to you tonight, Andrew. I appreciate you, and hopefully you can get home pretty quick here.
for sure. Thank you very much. Thanks for providing the platform here.
Yeah, no
And
problem.
so we're still in this fight, and giving it
Excellent.
our all, and we're excited for what the future holds. And yeah, pay attention to Mutiny on Instagram, or like I said, if the club is something you guys want to join, send us an email at info@mutinydistribution.com or direct message us, and we'll make sure once we do launch, which hopefully should be in the next couple months or so,
Yeah,
that you guys will be on that for sure. And reach out with questions, concerns, or if you want to partner with us, definitely reach out. And we can always take things from there.
excellent. Again, thank you for your time tonight, and I hope you get home
For sure.
safe. Have a
You
phenomenal rest of your
you
week.
as well. Sorry for the bohemian setup here, but
It
it's
is
authentic.
what it is.
So
Yes,
but we got it done. So at the end of the day,
it's almost it. It's almost too fitting of a background for a distribution interview. So it works
for
more than
sure.
it doesn't. So
So
have a
hopefully,
wonderful rest of your night,
hopefully,
man.
yeah, hopefully it wasn't too dark in here. But yeah, we
Yeah,
appreciate it.
you'll be all right. All
So
right,
yeah,
brother. Have a
cheers, guys.
good night.
You too. Thank you.
Cheers.
All right.
Awesome. That was a phenomenal interview with Andrew over there, Mutiny Distribution. Like I said, anybody looking to expand into New York, New Jersey, Connecticut area, reach out to those info@Mutiny Distribution, or just follow the links from his page, um, from his profile page to the link to their actual website and all that stuff. So um, have a wonderful rest of your guys' night tonight, and I will see you next Thursday. Have a great one. Peace.